I know that was a lot of information for all of us to digest, and that was part of what I wanted to address in the beginning, that oftentimes there are a lot of similarities between Latinos and Africans, especially as immigrants, where we bring our own home cultures to the United States. I myself learned a lot as a son of an immigrant from Mexico. My mother and father as well would not, go to the doctor for any preventative medicine. It was always, to the point where they were already just falling over when they actually pursued medicine, right? So I think that's something that I definitely, related to. Are there any questions out there, or anything that you guys particularly found interesting about what was spoken about today?
Hello, my name is Fabiola Joubert, and I'm here on behalf of American Institutes for Research. I am also a daughter of immigrants from the Caribbean, and I also know about the stigma behind homosexuality. And so my question, I guess, is because there is that stigma behind homosexuality, specifically with gay men, there's not really any sort of lesbian, that's not even heard of in the Caribbean culture, but for gay men, what is the groundwork, because of the stigma, what is the groundwork that's being done in the Caribbean geared toward these MSM populations? And especially since in the first presentation, it was the highest, I believe, the highest population with HIV infection, according to, and I'm sorry, I forget your name, but it was the first presentation in this breakout session. So I was just wondering, what is the groundwork that's being done targeting this population?
Yes, thanks, and nice to meet you. There are a few things that are being done, especially in the Caribbean, because homophobia is very strong, and as I said, it's related to the machismo in a way, and it's also related to the religious values, and it's related to legislation. And so there are actions being taken in all of them. We have a very famous, very similar slide for Caribbean countries showing where same-sex relations and anal sex, where they are criminalized, they have higher prevalence of HIV. And so the data gives us a direct link between showing the barriers to access services. And so there's a very big lobby to decriminalize homosexuality, and it's not so much homosexuality, but same-sex relations of two consenting adults. So that's a very strong one. The other one is the data that is being collected to continue to demonstrate the relationships. Another issue that PAHO especially has been working on is we developed a training package for health workers that we call HIV, men's health, and sexual diversity, because we know that there are many bisexual and men on the down low, or homosexual men who get married. They live the public life and then they live the private life. And so we are bringing it to health workers, building capacity to be able to speak about sexual diversity among men, and we are building the capacity for them to, for instance, do anal do anal investigations, and we are trying to open the scope. We've had some, usually PAHO, we don't get involved in the direct implementation, but I was involved in some of the pilot tests, and we actually had some male physicians who cried in the training because it's very experiential, addressing your own values and how you see homosexuality, and some of the things the men have gone through to show that they're men, that they're real men. They become so almost violent against homosexuality, and so we are addressing it on different levels, but those three I would like to mention right now.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Yeah, in a previous life, I did actually go to Africa several times and worked on various projects. And one thing I noticed when I was in Africa was that in order to make any inroads into a community, one had to go through the elders, one had to go through the older people in that community who perhaps were the sages and the ones who knew the oral history and the traditions and the culture. Have you seen that practice continued? Is it something that you've actually encountered in your work, both in Africa and among African immigrant populations in this country? And anyone could answer. Thank you.
Yeah, we try to do that, but what we've realized is there are a lot of self-appointed elders within the African community. And so if you're not sure, you will go through the wrong person. But yes, elders mean a lot, but our community has become full of self-appointed elders. So it's really hard. You see around the country where organizations have targeted a community and they go for somebody that they think is a community leader, and then nothing's being done. And that's the main issue here. People who come here and get educated then make themselves the leaders of the community, while leaders of the African community actually have nothing to do with education. So that's a big issue that we're dealing with.
Hi, I am a first-generation African myself. Both of my parents are from Sierra Leone. And so I'm wondering, for both the Latino side, or Caribbean side, and African side, what kind of initiatives are you using to engage first-generation youth? Because sometimes they can kind of serve as that bridge between the immigrants and kind of life in the United States. So what kind of initiatives are each of you all undertaking to engage that population of first-generation youth for these immigrant populations?
Okay, I'll talk about the African and you can talk about the rest. Next year, the office is going to start engaging in community health worker piece, which the community health workers have to be first-generation African kids. Because you are right. When my daughter comes home and says, "Dad, this medication for diabetes is good for you, you should take it," he does. When I say it, it's because I'm working in the American system. So we're going to use our children to give the messages.
Yes, well, I have a very academic answer, but I think it's okay because we're in a university. I like to use the theoretically sound methodology where you don't assume anything, but before you address a group, you do your formative assessment to identify what are their values. I'm also reminded, I have a 13. She reminds me she'll be 14 next month. So I have a 13-year-old daughter, and the other day she came to me and said, "Mommy, I want this and that when I have my Sweet 16 birthday party." I said, "We don't have Sweet 16 birthday party in Suriname." She said, "Well, I will have one because I'm here." And I realized she is a little, schizophrenic now in two cultures, and I shouldn't assume that she believes A or B. And I think for groups, that would be my answer. What we do, what the capacity we build with the organizations we work with, is to do a very sound formative assessment. Where are these young people in terms of the beliefs, in terms of the behaviors, and tailor your messages, so no assumption that they will think like their family at home or that they will think like their peers. They're somewhere in between, and where, we need to find out. That would be my answer.
Talking of in-between space, the number of years ago when I was in San Francisco, a patient was in our multicultural clinic was telling me about his casual homosexual encounter he had in the gay community in San Francisco, and at the end of that, the other guy left and wrote in his mirror, in the mirror in his bathroom with rouge, "Welcome to AIDS Nation." And that brings a point to this discussion of migration. People who become HIV positive migrate also from the nation of total ignorance into a different category in a different world. So it is a double migration, a migration of the diagnosis entails a migration because it forces a participation in a new community that are going from total ignorance to HIV nation, or from prejudice that they may have on into that, or from being omnipotent, it won't happen to me, into that, or from fear into that. But this migration is a very important period to accompany people in order to be able to make them not only tolerate but welcome, or if at least feel comfortable in the new nation that they are, and at the same time not lose roots to their own cultural community.
And great. Thank you all for your answers, and thank you again for that very enlightening conversation discussion. I know we have lots of questions. I see 2 people standing now. Unfortunately, we're being asked to wrap it up, so we have to go about doing that. But please, I encourage you all, if you have questions or comments, to go about engaging the panelists in discussions one-on-one. I'm sure we'll be around, so thank you again.
Yes, I encourage you to also, if you have questions, to follow your panelists. Get your questions answered.
Hi, everybody. We're the Berry School Singers. We're from a small private school in Silver Spring called the Berry School. We are led by Tyrone Stanley. He's been working with us for a couple months, so I hope you enjoy.
I hope you never fear those mountains in the distance, and never settle for the path of least resistance. Living might mean taking chances, but they're worth taking. And loving might be a mistake, but it's worth making. And don't let some helping heart leave you bitter. When you come close to selling out, reconsider. And give the heavens above more than just a passing glance. And when you get the shore, sit out or dance. I hope you
care.